Welcome back to my channel. My name is Junior Lee. I'm a vacant land wholesaler who's closed over 100 deals in my career. And in this series, I'm going over every single deal that I've ever done in hopes that I can educate and inspire someone to begin this journey and have some success of their own. Thank you for watching. Today, I thought I would switch up the structure a bit and discuss my 15th and 16th wholesale deal in my career, because they both actually closed on the same day back in May of 2021. I will first discuss the 15th closing, and then I will discuss the 16th closing. So my 15th closing ever at that time was my wildest deal to that date. So I had a property under contract in Ringgold, Georgia, and I had a buyer for it. So I had it under contract and I had it set to close. However, on the day of closing, the buyer of that deal was not responding to myself, the attorney, or the receptionist at the attorney's office. So I actually had to close on it myself because closing documents were already signed. And I was doing a double closing to my end buyer, and they actually just were not even responding. So I still had to uphold my end of the agreement. And so I closed on it around April of that year. And then I ended up finding a buyer for it, and we would end up closing on May 28th of 2021. The second closing of that day, the 16th deal, I got it under contract. I assigned it to a responsible buyer. We did, however, end up changing closing attorneys to close with an attorney that was more local to the property because the buyer and seller both were local. The attorney I had set to close with was in North Georgia, and the property of my 16th closing was actually in Dublin, Georgia, which is South Georgia. So the buyer of that property wanted to change closing attorneys. All I did was I reached out to the closing attorney just to verify that wholesaling land was okay with them and they understood assignments and assignment fees. Once I verified all of that, I simply got an addendum with my seller to move closing from the original closing attorney in the purchase agreement to the new closing attorney. So I had two closings on the same day, one of which with my preferred closing attorney that I do all of my business with, and the second of which with the South Georgia closing attorney. So both of these deals came from the same marketing funnel, which was SMS. So I had created a list in various counties across Georgia. So up until this point, and even still to this day, Georgia was my primary market. And at that time, I was venturing into different markets. So Ringgold, Georgia is actually in Northwest Georgia. I personally am stationed in Northeast, just a little bit north of Atlanta. And the second closing, the Dublin property, was in Southeast. So these two properties were completely in different areas of the state. And I never saw either one of them in person. So on the 15th closing, the one that I actually had to close on and then resell, I was set to make $4,000 on the assignment fee. And so that was a big lesson for me, a $2,300 lesson, because I actually ended up netting a little over $1,700. I think the final total was like $1,775. So just to be safe, like right at $1,800. So the lesson was even though I had the purchase agreement in place with the seller and the assignment of contract in place with my buyer, the buyer had never deposited the earnest money from the original purchase agreement that was assigned to him. We were set to close really quickly, so I was being friendly, which being friendly in business sometimes can really hurt you. And I was just going to allow him to send all of the funds in on the closing day, which left him to have no risk in the event of which happened that he just did not even end up closing. So he lost nothing. I am the only one that lost something, which was $2,300 that I was supposed to make, maybe $2,200, and the opportunity cost of actually closing on the property. It was very fortunate that I had it under contract for $5,000 plus closing cost. And my attorney, he wasn't charging a lot for closing costs on this property. He charged maybe $800. So I was all in for about $5,800. But I actually was notified while I was in Mexico on vacation with my wife that I was going to actually have to end up closing on this deal as soon as I got back to the States. So it was a mess. It was a nightmare. Imagine being at a resort thinking, you're about to get a $4,000 wire while you're on vacation, and then being told that you actually have to send money as soon as you get back. It was unfortunate, but it was a lesson. Now I have this story. I'm able to share my experience with you all to ensure that, you never make a similar mistake to me. So the key lesson from my 15th closing ever was, as soon as you get that, even once you have a buyer to agree to a price and you all have decided to enter into an assignment of contract, really enforce when the earnest money is to be deposited. In my assignment of contract template that I use, I actually have it stated that they will need to put a down payment, which will act as the earnest money within a specified time. I don't always require it immediately. I give some people, it just really depends on their time frame. 3 business days, 5 business days, 10. It just really depends on what they ask me to do. So, or they let me know what they need. So just be sure that once you have that assignment, the deal is not set in stone. Even if they deposit earnest money, the deal is not set in stone, but it is just a layer of protection for you. So as soon as you sign that assignment with your buyer, have a specified day, time frame, whatever, for when earnest money will be deposited. So now on my 16th closing, I was actually able to net a clear, concise $2,000 on the assignment fee. And this one was much more simple. I got it under contract in April. It took me a little while. I had to do some price reductions. Mainly the reason being was that it's a less desirable area. I definitely had it under contract for less than some of the comps in the area. But when you're wholesaling or you're trying to find your buyer after you have the property under contract, sometimes it's tougher to get the exposure that some of the comps that you're basing your offers off of had, because they're on market MLS with an agent, whereas yours is just directly tied to you, ideally. You don't want to be daisy chaining your deals. You don't want to be taking on JVs that are daisy chained. So the deal will be tied to you. So you're a little bit limited to your marketing. So I had the property under contract for $35,000, and I had seen some comps at, $50,000. This was a bigger piece of property. It was like 6.5 acres. And it was unrestricted, meaning somebody could build, they could put a mobile home. Now that I know what I know now, there could have been opportunity to have the property under contract for a long enough time to get it rezoned for potentially industrial, because it was right off of a highway. But at that time, all I knew was it was unrestricted. The person could buy it from me and build a house. Somebody could buy it and put a mobile home on it. And that's actually exactly what my buyer that ended up buying from me did. They put a mobile home for their family to live on, which is always a really, really cool feeling as a wholesaler. It's nice to make money from your computer. It's nice to make money virtually. It's nice to make money for sure. But it's really a cool feeling when you can, because of your efforts, provide someone a place to live. Like, it really doesn't get better than that. Because of a skill that you picked up and developed and honed yourself. For instance, with me, I never had a mentor. I never had a course. I never had anything like that. And I'm not saying those things are bad. I'm just saying that I developed this skill completely on my own, through failure, through being bad at it, through spending money in areas that I was not going to do any deals ever. For instance, later on in my career, I actually spent $7,000 on data and list in markets in which I've never closed deals, so I've never recouped that money. And that will happen. Just make sure for you it happens on a smaller scale. One way to prevent that is reverse wholesaling. So having buyers in specified areas before you even pull list. My mistake with that $7,000 was I had a lot of success in 2021 and 2022 with working with an agent in Florida. And I'm still really cool with that agent to this day. We've made a lot of money together. He's helped me make a ton of money. I've helped him make a lot of money. But my mistake was thinking every single agent was going to be as good as that connect. And he was actually the one that connected me with the agents in Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. And I pulled the list just being very, very confident because he and I had already made like 6 figures together at that point. So I'm like, if I spend $7,000 on this list, we're obviously going to make $70,000 or $80,000, which at that time, whatever I was pulling, whatever data I was pulling, it was easy to 10x my money, and in some case 20x my money. But in those markets, just nothing ever happened. And that was a really, really tough and expensive lesson to learn. I still follow up and am working those lists. So I'm not counting myself out. I believe that one day I will close on a deal that will at least get my money back, but hopefully make a lot of money. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to talk about my 15th and 16th closing. So like I said, I was venturing into different markets. I was just checking out different areas. I was doing some research on Zillow, seeing where there was a lot of land being sold and recent sales happening. So I found some pockets in Northwest, Northeast, Southeast Georgia to expand from the market that I was already working in, which was just slightly north central of Atlanta, like Hall, Forsyth, Dawson, Banks County. Those are still to this day my primary markets, and some of the markets that if you send me a lead in any of those markets, if we get connected via email or social media, or you have my phone number, you can send me a lead in those primary markets, which are Hall County, Forsyth County, Dawson County, Jackson County, Banks County, and even Lumpkin County. This is free game. I'm not saying that you're guaranteed to get a deal. These are very saturated markets because I have just abused marketing there. So I know that there's many people like myself working. But if you get a lead there and you send it to me, I can evaluate it pretty quickly. I can let you know. And I have buyers that can make a decision within a day or two. So I had to expand from there because I wanted this to be a full-time thing. It's virtual. I had even sold lots that were 6 or 7 minutes away from my house that I still did not bother to go and see. So I had expanded into these other markets through a little bit of market research, and I actually cultivated my list on PropStream. I was using the same filters that I was using in my primary markets in these markets, at least a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. In some markets, you can get away with less, such as Florida. I think you can go as low as 7,000 square feet in Florida. But in Georgia, you ideally want, in more rural areas, Atlanta is different. I personally don't really do much business in Atlanta. But outside of that, you need at least 1/4 of an acre. And it's preferred to at least have half of an acre because there are a lot of markets in Georgia that if you need a septic system, which once you get outside the city center, you're going to need a septic system. There's no sewer lines available. You need at least half of an acre to sustain a septic system. So I made my filters on PropStream. I pulled my list in these areas. And as soon as the list came back from clearskip.com, I actually just imported the list into my SMS software and began texting. These sellers were interested, and all I did was I took a look at the comps and made offers based on that. So that's how I got the properties under contract. So with the 15th deal, the one that I actually had to close on, I had it under contract in March of 2021. And I found a buyer 7 days later, which was very exciting for me. And so then we started the title search, and I stayed in communication with the buyer for weeks after that. Now, once the title was back clear to close, the closing attorney notified me and the seller. And so I was doing a double close at that time, to my end buyer. So before I left to Mexico, I signed my closing documents on that deal and sent in I didn't send my money in because the closing attorney would allow pass-through funds and let my end buyer's funds cover the A to B and then B to C. And then I would just keep the net in between after closing cost. So I had signed my closing documents with him before I left. And then that's when I get notified while I'm on vacation that the buyer is not responding. And they actually weren't responding to me either. So I had to go into my phone app and actually go to my bank account and wire from Mexico to the United States. So that way I could close on the property. So then I had to begin marketing for a new buyer again, which wasn't hard. I had a lot of people that were interested because my marketing method was Facebook. So I put it on Facebook Marketplace with 3D outlines, screenshots of the Google Street View and the aerial shot. And so I had a vast number of buyers that were interested in this property. I just had to find one that was serious. So for the time being, I was actually the owner of this property for a few weeks. So then I found a buyer actually at, I believe it was $9,000 plus closing costs, which ended up working out to where I was only able to net the $1,800 in between. But even still, owning a property for a couple of weeks and selling it and making $1,800 on a $5,000 investment is not bad. If you could do that 1,000 times, you know, you're going to be a very wealthy person. But for me in this case, it was worth it for the lesson and the money. You know, $1,700 is a pretty good list size for data. Covers my software expenses for a little while. So it wasn't that bad. It just was a tough lesson to learn, especially at that time, because I didn't have a lot of funds. I didn't have that much experience. I was a bit nervous that I was going to be stuck holding this lot that I didn't have any plans for other than just trying to wholesale it. So for the 16th closing, which was in Dublin, Georgia, I got it under contract based off of comps. And then I began marketing it the same way I did the other one on Facebook Marketplace and groups with the 3D outlines, the aerial screenshots, and the Google Street View, which then led me to my buyer who was interested in putting a mobile home on the land to live on, which for $37,000 at that time, 6 acres in a decently desirable area, was a great deal for them. And I actually am still in touch with them to this day. I follow up every now and then to see how they're enjoying the land, just for my own sake, just to see how they're doing, as well as to see if they're interested in buying any more, or if they know anybody that is interested in purchasing land in that area or any other areas, because I do pay people that refer leads to me. I pay them a referral fee. So that one was under contract and assigned within a week. And then it was set to close on the same exact day that I was set to close on the 15th deal with my new buyer. So once the property was under contract, I began marketing it. I found my buyer. They actually came in a little bit low, but because I was able to, you know, assign it pretty easily and quickly for $2,000, I actually just went on ahead and did that, and I had both properties set to close. So it felt like I was going to make, you know, close to $4,000 from the two deals, which, you know, isn't great, but an easy way to keep it moving. And once you stack those up together, you do enough of those in a month, it turns into a great month. So I'm sure if you're watching this, if you're watching my channel and you're watching this far into this video, you are a student of this game. I can say that about you for sure. I don't know you personally, but if you are watching this video and you're watching this deep into this video, I can tell that you are very similar to me whenever I got started in wholesaling, period. I watched every video on YouTube. I watched in depth. I watched the same video multiple times to make sure that I understand it. I was watching Max Maxwell, Jerry Norton, all the big names, and then even some smaller names back then that were getting a few hundred views on their videos, much like myself. So if you're following this deep into it, then I know you're a student of the game, and I know you're going to be fine. So the property was assigned for $2,000, and they closed on the same day, which was a cool feeling. That was my first time in my career at that point that I was able to have 2 closings on the same day. I've had it happen numerous times since. It's a really cool feeling, especially when the checks are bigger than what those were. So to summarize both of these deals, the marketing list was created on PropStream for both. The marketing channel was SMS, and I'm currently using Launch Control for SMS. The way I got the phone numbers for the owners was through skip tracing. I use clearskip.com. You can really use anybody. Actually, you can't use anybody. You don't have to use whatever I'm telling you to use. I'm not pushing affiliates. I definitely have affiliate links for the sake of having affiliate links, but you can use whatever software works for you. I'm just saying you don't have to use whatever I say. You can use any skip tracing software, but just make sure that they're accurate. The reason I like ClearSkip is because they're very accurate. You pay the same amount of money for individuals as you do trust and LLC, which is cool. I used to work with some skip tracing companies that to get an LLC phone number was almost double, but ClearSkip charges the same. So PropStream, Launch Control, ClearSkip, and then the dispo method was Facebook, which is free, Facebook Marketplace. Now to create the 3D outlines and the aerial screenshots and the street view is free, but the 3D outlines, you need Parlay with Google Earth, and you need to overlay those two things. If you need help creating 3D outlines for your properties that you're looking to sell, you can reach out to me, or you can just search it on YouTube. But if you want, I can help you with that. I can have my virtual assistant take care of it for you, as long as it's not too often or too many. We can get the first one or two done for free. That way you can get your deals done. And then I use closing attorneys for both transactions. So as you can see, sometimes these wholesale deals can vary in amounts that you make. You can honestly make any amount that you want. The lowest I've ever made on a deal was $500 on an assignment fee, and the most I've ever made was $43,000. Wholesaling land can definitely be a business. It's quite difficult to get it automated and running without you being a part of it at all. You can definitely train virtual assistants to do a lot of the work, but there's still going to be that personal touch and that knowledge that you have inside your head that is tough to replace. You can definitely hire, local to you or work with people to make it easier. But to me, from my experience, wholesaling land, especially on the smaller side of things, making, $1,500 to $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, it is essentially a self-employed, great sales job. I used to work in roofing, and I don't know what the roofing industry pays now, but back whenever I was working there, if you sold a roof to a small ranch house, 1,800 square foot, you could make anywhere from $1,200 to like $2,200 per roof. Now then you would have to climb on a roof, actually have to see that there's damage on the roof, come back down off the roof, show the owner, go through a sales presentation, get on the phone with their insurance, help them file the claim, leave the house, come back a week later, meet with the insurance adjuster, get it approved that the roof actually needs to be replaced. Then you have to schedule the roof replacement. Then a crew comes out, tears the old roof off, puts the new roof on, takes videos, pictures, evidence to send to the insurance company that this is taking place. Then they send the first check, and then there's two separate checks that are coming in for the roof replacement, and you get paid a percentage of each check that comes in. So you're doing this crazy amount of work for $2,000 just on a standard house. And again, don't attack me if you currently work for a roofing company that pays you like $4,000 for a roof. This was my experience in like 2019. But then you're doing all this work to make $2,000. Whereas with land wholesaling, you bootstrap yourself up, you're working completely on your own, and you get you're doing all this work from your computer, from the comfort of your home. Where you're seeing me at right now is my office. This is where I work every single day. I have two computers and a laptop, or two monitors and a laptop, one computer. Forgive me, I'm not a tech wizard. But, it's all from the comfort of your own home. And so that's why when I back then I was closing on these smaller deals, I would think to myself, like, this is a roof. This is a roof sale. And it took me 30 minutes. If you put a stopwatch on when you're working on these deals, you're creating the PropStream list. For this specific market, it shouldn't take longer than 10 minutes. You export it, the company does the skip tracing. You get it back, you're texting. The templates, whatever software you're using, you don't have to actually type out and text this whole message to the person. There's templates, so you're just pressing a button. You can send 500 text messages in 30 seconds. Then you just have a conversation with them, gather the pertinent information, and then get it under contract. Once it's under contract, you just post it on Facebook. your conversations on Facebook, texting shouldn't be that long. You know, each message is only going to take you 5 seconds to type. So if you put a stopwatch on yourself, a lot of these deals can get done in under an hour. And then you're essentially getting paid $1,700, $2,000, $3,000 per hour. So you can definitely focus on the higher ticket stuff, such as agricultural, industrial land. There's many, many ways to make $50,000 on a wholesale deal, $100,000, $500,000. It is very well possible. But for the majority of people, especially just starting out, if you're able to spend a little bit of time and not a lot of money and make $1,700, $2,000, $3,000 on a deal, that's not something you're going to turn your nose up at. Once you get to a certain point in your career, you can start to be selective if you'd like and say, I won't take a deal that isn't going to make me less than $5,000 or $10,000. That's your prerogative. Me personally, I've set my business up to where if I have to assign something for $2,000, let's do it. I'll do it. That's, 4 months of launch control. That's a pretty big size list of skip tracing. That's over a year's worth of prop stream. I think of it like that. So it's a really nice, comfortable sales job, essentially, with uncapped commission, uncapped earning potential on single deals. Like I said, the same amount of effort that I put forth towards this $1,700 deal, I put forth on a $43,000 deal, where $43,000 was wired directly to my account. So logically, you want to focus on the bigger stuff, but to keep bills paid and to keep your business running and to keep money in your pocket, especially starting out, it's a bit crazy to turn your nose up at things. And it's up to you completely. But me personally, when I was starting out, there are several deals. I'm looking at my list right now that I'm going to go through that made $1,500, $3,500, $6,000, $3,000, multiple $3,000. Then there's a $9,700. Then there's a $13,000. Then there's an $8,000. So it really varies. So I say all that to say that you really can do whatever you want to within this business. So I really thank you for watching this video. I really hope you learned something and you got something out of this. If so, leave a like, leave a comment. If you've made it this far into the video, you're gonna be successful. I don't care what anybody says. If you've watched this video this long to this point and you have been following along with this series, you are not going to fail. I promise you that. And you have to make your mind set about this business that you are a wealth creator. That is your skill. When I was a roofing salesman, I thought of myself as someone who helped the aesthetic of the home and to protect the home. You have to think about the bigger picture. Don't just think about the money. Yes, money's nice. $43,000 is nice. Any amount of money is really, really nice. But what you are doing is you are creating off-market opportunities for people to become wealthy. You are a wealth creator. Keep that in mind and don't forget it. And like I said, if you're watching this video this deep, you are a wealth creator and you will succeed. I can promise you that. And if you don't, you can blame me. I don't mind.